Hey, it's Coach in the Fight here. We're looking at parables in chapter 65 of the Third Testament of the Bible. Now, this is the last chapter in the series of chapters there, and this one is about parables. It has three parables, and then it has another part to it. Part four of this chapter would be on like blessings or something like that, but we will do something on that a little later. But now we're going to talk about the parable of the poor administrators. Parable of the poor administrators. All right, we're going to start right here at verse 1. Praising our Father in heaven, hallowed be his name for all that we learn. And asking him to help teach us. In his son's name we pray, amen. A crowd of hungry, sick, and naked approached a house in search of charity. Okay, now we're in parables here. You have to understand parables. If you are unfamiliar with parables, I will advise you to go back to Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John and look at those parables first. Make sure you at least understand what a parable is. I ain't say figure it out, but you know. But we're gonna try to ad lib to this. We put up a uh, uh, audio of it not too long ago, but it was of poor quality, so we thought we'd do something um, a little different this time. Verse 2 says, "The owners of the house constantly prepared food to serve the travelers at their table." Now, I believe this is a futuristic parable. I don't think this one has happened yet. Um, Opposed to something that's going on right now, or maybe even have already happened. But let me just go on. He says, "The owner, lord and master of those lands came to preside over the banquets." Now, this is why I said that I believe that we have this to look forward to, because when we think of the owner, we always think of the Most High. When the owner, you know, this is a parable. He's talking about something important. And so let's look at verse 4. "Time passed, and the needy always found their sustenance and shelter in that house." See, this to me brings to mind the church. Not the Big C church, the church, the Father, Heavenly Father church. No, I'm talking about, these different, religions that we have going on, including Christianity. And when I say church, I mean, the synagogue, I mean the mosque, I mean the temple, I mean the all of the organized religions or places of worship. But let's go on. "One day, the owner noticed that the water served at the table was cloudy, that the dishes served were not healthy and tasty, and that the tablecloths were stained." Okay, so this, I said a few minutes ago that this brings to mind of the church. You say, well, how is this so? Well, because they're not really, giving us what we need when we go down there. They kind of offer us what they have to offer, and they have a take it or leave it attitude where, if you don't like it, go find another church to go to. So the dishes and what they're serving is not healthy and tasty, so it's not good for us. We don't even like it. And maybe that's why there's nobody really down there. And he said, "And the tablecloths were stained." Okay. Look at verse 6. "He called them," and before I go on, he's talking about us. He's talking about me. He's talking about all of the so-called ministers. When I say the Little C Church, I also, mean, everybody, lottie-dottie, everybody, myself included. Verse 6. "He called then for those in charge of preparing the table and asked them, 'Have you looked at these linens, tasted these dishes? and drunk this water? Meaning, have they gone in and, look at what they're serving? See, you got to understand, a lot of the ministers are just there for the show. You got to understand, when they first created this so-called church system that they have with pews and indoor altars and paying tithes, and offering plates and all that kind of stuff, the singing the choir, all of that stuff. The pastor, the one who did all of the talking, he was a figurehead. He was a person who went back to the rest of the elders there, who basically coached him and told, they had Bible study meetings, making sure that he was on board and everybody knew what they were talking about. So when he, who was really into the fame, I would say, I hate to say that, I don't really want to talk bad about anybody, but and the fortune of it, that that was the person that wanted to get out there and do the song and dance. But let me go on. Yes, sir, they replied. Okay, so these are the ministers saying, yeah, we let our kids go, come in here and listen to what we say. We teach it, Verse 8 says, before you give it to these hungry people, then have your children eat of it. And if they find these servants to be good, you may give them to the visitors. Okay, so now this what it would put you in mind of is, a lot of the times the minister's family don't partake in the ministry. They don't go to the church. They don't listen to the sermons. They don't, do the Bible studies. They're detached. And he's saying, okay, well, take this, what you're serving down here at this establishment, at your place, and actually make your kids sit down and eat it. Make them sit down and listen to it. Make them sit down, make them come and partake in these dishes that you're serving. Verse 9 says, the children took the bread, the fruit, and whatever there was on the table. But the taste was not pleasant, and there was discontent and rebellion against the supervisors and harsh protests. Okay, so this is, the guy saying, okay, I'm going to go have to teach what I teach my parishioners to my family. While the same standards that I'm holding my parishioners to, I'm going to hold these to my family. We're going to do the same thing. And so, but, the family life would be a little bit different. And so when it was presented to the kids, they were like, yeah, we don't like this. That's why we didn't come down to the church in the first place. That's why we wasn't, as we didn't like it then. And, yeah, verse 10 says, the owner then said to those who were waiting, come, wait beneath this tree. I will offer you the fruits of my garden and morsels that will please your taste. All right, so now this will be the father here. This will be the father saying to all of the people who are partaking in the church, all of the parishioners, all of those who are, basically receiving what is being offered. He's saying, you guys go over there and wait under the tree. You guys go over there and wait, And of course, it's a fruit tree, and then, they can eat. He says, and I will offer you the fruits of my garden and the morsels that will please your taste. So he's giving them, the nourishment that they need. Now, you got to remember, this is a parable, and he's not really talking about food. He's talking about a different kind of nourishment, a nourishment for the spirit, a nourishment for, Look at verse 11. And to the supervisors he said, clean that which is stained, get rid of the bitter taste that you have left in the mouths of those you have deceived. Make amends to me for this, for I ordered you to receive all those who hunger and thirst, and offer them the finest dishes and clean water, and you have complied, and you have not complied. Your work is not pleasing to me. See, this is the father, he's coming down on them pretty harsh right here. He's saying that they have to go undo all of the stuff that they did right there. When he said go and, what does he say? Clean that which is stained. Yeah, the parable is about tablecloths. But these tablecloths got some rough stains in it that we're going to have to get out. And some of them going to require some elbow grease, if you know what I mean. Some of these are some serious stains. But he's saying to us to clean these. He says, get rid of the bitter taste. Get rid of the bitter taste you have left in the mouths of those you have deceived. Okay, so now, folks, look, I ain't deceived nobody. Well, you have to understand that you came in the game being deceived. How many of us, when we've heard about the Father, the Creator, the Most High, and we decided we wanted to get closer to Him, did not all run down to the church? How many of us did? Yeah. Okay. So I'm just trying to make it reach home. I don't want nobody to be like, oh, are you talking to me? Yeah, he is. Make amends to me for this. For I ordered you to receive all those who hunger and thirst. And, he's saying, you're going to make this up to me. If you want to, go into the millennial age. If you don't care then about the millennial age and you go on with the other guys, okay, fine. For I ordered you to receive all those who hunger and thirst and offer them the finest dishes and clean water. See, what I always wanted to do a little, sermonette down at the church where I offer the people in the pews some water, where I had 2 pitchers of water and a jug of ink. And then I put, the ink in one of them, in one of the jugs, and then offer them to drink. But then, after I did that, you start adding the clean water to it, and the color gets lighter and lighter. And we keep going until we get to the point where the people will actually drink the water. Look, I don't really see anything in it. Man, 4 gallons of water in that little pitcher. I'm sure there's no ink left. And, well, go ahead, take a drink. But that what you're drinking is a lie. It's the same lies that, have been passed down. But let's go on. The Lord of those lands then prepared himself the banquet. The bread was satisfying, the fruit healthy and ripe, the water clean and refreshing. Then he invited those who waited, beggars, the sick, and the lepers, and all ate with great pleasure. Soon they were healthy and free of their ills and decided to stay at that farm. All right, so what happened to the other guys? He told them to cleanse it, but they gone now. They ain't even a part of this no more. Notice that. He told them to, handle their business, but he's not even mentioning them here. It's like he's doing all of the work. The Lord of those lands then prepared himself the banquet. And you can read that without that, without that bracketed, word there. It sounds like the Lord of those lands then prepared the banquet. The bread was satisfying, the fruit healthy and ripe, the water clean and refreshing. All right. Let's see what else it says there while my computer gets its mind made up what it's going to do. All right, well, I guess it did. Talking about the beggars, the sick, and the lepers, and all ate with great pleasure. Right. So you got to understand these are the targeted off. This is the targeted audience. Targeted audience. Beggars, sick, lepers are those that the Father wants us to to try to minister to as soon as possible. Soon they were healthy and free of their ills and decided to stay on that farm, referring back to the fact that a lot of the Father's servants will have healing powers. They will be able to make the sick better, and let's look at 13. He says, they became laborers and began to work the lands, but they were weak and did not let themselves be guided by the advice of the owner. They mixed different seeds and the crops degenerated. The wheat was choked by weeds. All right, now this is a deep, verse here. There's a lot to this, Okay, so going back to what we were talking about earlier, how the original administrators are all gone, they're yet to be mentioned. He says, but these guys who were lepers, sick, and beggars who were sitting under the tree while the Lord dealt with those ministers or administrators is, they look at they become laborers. They take over now and began to work the lands, but they were weak. Okay, now weak, I'm believing in their understanding of the Torah, or their adherence to the commandments or free will or something like that. He says, and did not let themselves be guided by the advice of the owner, meaning they didn't read the word. They didn't read it. They didn't go back to the Torah, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, and keep going. They didn't do that. So they didn't. They did. He said, well, what advice of the owners? If you want to jump right to the advice of the owners, start in Exodus chapter, I'm going to say 19 or 20, and go all the way to chapter 24, verse 7. 24 verse 7 is the end. That's where it ends at. That's where it ends. But start there at 19 or 20. You start at the 10 Commandments. You start at right at the belly of it in chapter 20. But if you want to get a little bit of an introduction, go to 19 and just read. But let's go on. He says they mix different seeds. See, there's a commandment in there that tell you don't mix up seeds. Don't mix seeds. You don't mix them up. And then, but it's also speaking spiritually too. And so you have to understand what kind of seeds they could be mixing. And it could be mixing something like, Jingle Bells with, Silent Night. It could be just mixing stuff up. He says they mix different seeds and the crops degenerated. And the wheat was choked by weeds. Now, the wheat, I'm thinking, is talking about, us, people. I'm thinking it's talking about, the people that will be here after it's over. We have, after, the tribulation is all over, said and done. You have the owner who will be back and, being the new administrator. The wheat that's come up after these from these laborers is bad. It's not good. It had weeds in it, a lot of weeds. 14, and when the time of the harvest came, the owner approached again and said, what are you doing? To you I gave only the care of the house for receiving visitors. The planting you have done is not good. There are others who are in charge of the lands. Go and clean the fields of thorns and brushes and weeds. Then return to caring to the house. The spring has dried up, the bread is not wholesome, and the fruit is bitter. Do with the travelers as I have done with you. And when you have fed and healed those who come to you, when you have made the pain of your brothers disappear, I will bring you to rest in my mansion. Okay. Now, that's the end of that parable. But let's go back up and look at it. Verse 14. He says, and when the time of the harvest came. Now, talking about these weeds. We've been out there pulling weeds today, because, basically because of this, what we're reading here. You know what I'm saying? But he says, and that's referring back to, verse 13, talking about, the wheat being choked with weeds. But now it's the harvest time. Now the harvest is, as you know, he's talking about Revelations here. He's talking about the harvest in Revelations. I can't remember, what chapters it is. It talks about it. Was it 7 or 8 or was it 14 or 15? But it talks about the harvest. That's the harvest that he's talking about. He says the owner approached again. Okay. So now I'm gonna have to back up. I'm gonna have to hit the brakes real hard and jump on another path here, because if you remember, I said I thought this was a futuristic parable, but wait a minute, he's come back again. So no, that would have been going back to the Messiah. That would have been pointing to the Messiah. So everything we've heard so far would have been his first coming, and guess 14 is getting into the second coming. So let's go ahead. He says, the owner approached again and said, what are you doing? To you I gave only the care of the house for receiving visitors. See, I have to change all of that because now we're not talking about Constantine's church anymore, but we're talking about the Jews in the first 13 verses. We're talking about the Hebrews. We're talking about those who, was there when the Messiah showed up. So he's kind of, those are the guys that are gone now. Those are the guys that are, we don't hear from anymore. We don't hear from, they were scattered. That's why we don't hear from them, is because they were scattered. They are, a covering the earth like, pepper on some, mashed potatoes or something, but, they, you don't hear from them anymore. Okay, let me go on. To you I gave only the care of the house for receiving visitors. So, let's see. Now, who's he talking about? So, and I have to think this through now. Because those were the old Jews. So you say, well, he said, what is the house then? He says, and when the time of the harvest came, the owner approached again and said, what are you doing? To you I gave only the care of the house for receiving visitors. The planting you have done is not good. So the planting may be, I'm thinking what they're adding to and taking away from the word, kind of, where people are going in, and what does the Bible call them? Presumptuous. They're being presumptuous, and saying stuff like, we don't have to do this, or we don't have to do that, and Jesus did this, and the Savior did that, but I'm gonna finish this. I'm gonna finish it just like it is. He says, to you I gave only the care of the house for receiving visitors. The planting you have done is not good. There are others who are in charge of the lands. Now see, right here I believe he's talking about angels. The angels are in charge of the lands. If you remember the vineyard parable from Hermas, I don't know if you guys are into parables, but Hermas has a very good parable over there that he talks about the vineyard. You can look at that on the Hermas Academy White. Hermas Academy White is where my wife does shows from Hermas Academy, or from the Shepherd of Hermas. I shouldn't say Hermas Academy. She does Hermas Academy shows from the book, The Shepherd of Hermas. All right. He says, go and clean the fields of thorns and brushes and weeds, then return to caring for the house. Okay. So now, because they have, this will be the current day church now. This will be us ministers now. This will be, the ones who, call ourselves Christians, or call ourselves, whatever religion we are, Jewish or Muslim or whatever religion, because, they're pretty much all have, their good points and, their bad points. And, we'll get that all straightened out before it's over with. But so what he's saying here is that they now have to go clean the fields of thorns and brushes and weeds. Thorn bushes and weeds. Then return to caring for the house. Okay. Now, what flashes into my mind, and I'm praying, I'm praising the Father, for it, is he's talking about merits now. These thorn bushes and weeds, he's talking about, thorn bushes and weeds. When he says, go clean the fields of thorn bushes and weeds, he's talking about atonement day. He's talking about that period in our life when we realize what is going on and we make a conscious decision that, yep, I'm going to go out here and do the best I can do when it comes to, Isaiah 58. I'm going to go out here and, help my neighbor. I'm going to go out here and, do for others, and I'm going to do some Hermas stuff too, where I'm going to, take on long suffering and patience. and the other virtues. He says the spring has dried up. The spring has dried up. So what would this mean? Now you gotta understand. I've been flying on eagle's wings for approximately 3 to 5 minutes here. I'm not sure, but when he said that the spring has dried up, he he could be talking about. Well, I'm pretty sure he's talking about the knowledge, wisdom, understanding, what it is that we're supposed to be getting from the church in the first place. What it is, when we go down there and sit in this building with these people, they're about to get up here and they're about to talk to us for about an hour to 2 hours, depending on, the church you go to. Some of them will be in there a long time. And, okay, what am I going to get out of it? Well, what you say, well, what are we supposed to get out of it? Well, right here, you're supposed to have this water, this spring, this life-giving fluid, spiritual fluid that is supposed to make you not be thirsty anymore. He says the bread is not wholesome. Now here we're talking about the word of God. Here the bread. The scripture is not wholesome anymore. You say, well, how could this be? Well, you can jump on this on many different levels. First of all, the scripture itself, where they have taken out books, whole books, just got rid of whole books. You know what I'm saying? You don't know, you want to know why you don't know or don't understand, some of the stuff you hear, me saying. It's because you are familiar with certain books. You haven't heard of, Enoch and Jasher, and you may not know that there's a testament of Moses and a testament of Abraham. Abraham himself spoke his own words that we can then find and read and make a part of our life. And that was no accident. They took those books on purpose, and they did more than that too. You know what I'm saying? Praise the Lord for what we do have left. It is enough. The guys who say we got enough, yeah, we got enough. But, we welcome, as much as the Father wants to give us. But let's get on. He says, the fruit is bitter. Now, I don't really understand the fruit. I don't know what the fruit are. I don't know what the fruit is. So I'm going to leave that question mark on that one, and let's go on. Do with the travelers as I have done with you. And when you have fed and healed those who come to you, now do unto the travelers I've done. See, he does that for us. When we get to a certain place of obedience, a certain place of spiritual maturity, certain things start to turn and go in other, start to turn in our lives. And this is one of the things that happens. He says, fed and healed you. Some of us, are aware of what he talking about. Some of us ain't got there yet. He's like, he didn't heal me. I still got this limp. You know what I'm saying? You may have that limp till you die. He said, and when you have fed and healed those who come to you, when you have made the pain of your brothers disappear. See, this is what we have to do. We have to look out for our brothers. We have to, take care of, our neighbors. I ain't gonna say take care of each other. We're good at that. We're good at taking care of our family. We're good at taking care of, our close friends. We're good at taking care of those people that we can see, But we got to get good at going down to a hospital or a prison, or going down to, where else he say, the crack house, I believe was the other place. He said go down and minister to those people, and you may find yourself in unfamiliar territory, but he got you. That's what those eagle's wings are about. He says, when you have made the pain of your brothers disappear, I will bring you to rest in my mansion. Now, this is another thing I don't really know nothing about. This, what he mean by rest in my mansion. I'm trying to get an understanding on this parable because I want to see what he talk about. That's what we do over here. You know what I'm saying? We like them guys in Missouri. We say, show me. Hermes Academy. Power, patience, continence, and faith. We teach virtue.